Hey, great thinkers, Erik Thurwanger here. I am so excited that you are back for another episode of the Think Great Experience. And as we continue to speak with people who have experienced greatness and are willing to share their moments of greatness, I cannot tell you how excited I am today to have Tate Wheeler join us. He is the owner of Title Boxing Club in Lakeville. He's also the host of his own podcast. He's got so many amazing things going on and is helping people to achieve greatness in their life. Tate, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Erik.
You are not new to the podcast world, are you?
I am not. I love the podcast world. It's a great way for those, they're on the run, they're commuting, they're personal development. They realize how important that is. I think podcasting is kind of a great way to continue to work on yourself daily.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, anybody that wants to grow and develop, there's so many amazing podcasts out there. Of course, you and I have the best ones, but there's other ones too. Can you tell us a little bit about, you do a lot of things and you're helping people to achieve greatness. Can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do to help people achieve greatness in their lives?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, I'm a father and a husband. So I have three little ones. A 7, a 5, and a 3-year-old. So they definitely keep me on my toes, and been married for 10 years to my beautiful wife, Bridget, and been in fitness since I got out of college. So I was a 2-sport college athlete, and I had the big dream, right? The big dream of playing in the NFL. And that dream didn't get fulfilled. And so when I was training for NFL tryouts and combines, I started as a part-time personal trainer, and I was like, oh, this will just, pay the bills as I'm traveling, to different tryouts throughout the country. Yeah. And got into personal training and kind of worked my way up the ladder, the personal trainer to fitness coordinator, to fitness director, to executive director, and general manager, and then, owner of a health club. And it just, steadily just climb the ladder along the way. So I've been super blessed. The greatest thing about what I do each day is I help people speak belief into people and help them achieve more than they thought they could. And so they come with a goal of maybe losing 10 pounds and they've maybe had that goal for 10 or 20 years. And it's not about the 10 pounds. It's about how you transform, how you change mentally and physically along the way. So it's just speaking that belief and that life and that truth into people that in all walks of life. So super blessed to get to fill people's cup every day and just make them feel their greatest. And so when you asked me to join the podcast about greatness, I was like, fantastic. I love speaking that into people.
I mean, when you can help somebody with a fitness goal, you and I both know it's much more than the fitness goal. I mean, it opens up doors in their life to new goals, new opportunities, building self-esteem. I was in the Marine Corps, so physical fitness was always a part of what I did. When I got out, I actually became a certified fitness trainer for the YMCA in California. And I didn't really know what to expect. And then all of a sudden they started assigning me clients and I loved it. I got bit by the bug. It was really my first coaching experience ever. And it can have its highs and lows. You're like, you shouldn't have eaten that. I was talking to you about that. Remember, we got to stick with this. So sometimes people are their own worst enemies, but when you actually get them to achieve these little milestones, these are huge, huge steps for them in their life. And you're right. Some of these people held on to their fitness goals for so long before accomplishing it. Are you finding that too, that you're helping them to have that breakthrough with these goals?
Yeah, because you don't achieve a milestone goal. Like even like look at somebody that says, I need to lose 100 pounds. Well, you don't just lose 100 pounds. Like, I mean, there's a process and there's a mindset and there's a mentality. And I really, what I kind of encourage people to do is like, you got to master the art of showing up, right? Like you got to understand that you got to start to identify as a person that's going to show up at the gym every day. And until you can do that, people struggle with that mindset. And as soon as you start to identify, like as not as a person that's always been overweight, or I'm always going to be this way, until you change that in your head, you're going to struggle. And so it's the baby steps of small wins, slow and steady progress, like the tortoise versus the hare. Like we're going to change this by changing your mentality, changing how you show up each day. And that's the key, right? Like just those day by day by day, those small changes. You eat a little bit better, you show up every day, you drink more water. Okay, now right now what are you doing for your mind? How are you working on that along the way in this journey and reflecting?
I
That's
love that, mastering the art of just showing up.
absolutely
Most people aren't showing up for their life, let alone to the gym, to anything these days, especially since we've been told to stay at home. So, I mean, there's so much power in that statement, Tate. Just the power of showing up these days means so much more than it did a year and a half ago.
and when I say show up, it's like show up and be present, right? Like right
That's
in a
right.
like like obviously people are going to listen to this, but this phone, is a distraction to so
That's right.
many things. And you could say the same thing about the Netflix series or whatever the trend is that everyone's watching. It showing up and being present in the moment, and I think about that as a father so often. It's like, oh, like if I have my notifications on with an email or a text, like I'm going to be distracted. And I don't want, we're talking about greatness, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
want the people that I care about most in life to get what's left of me. I want them to get what's best of me. And so when you talk about staying in the moment and staying
Powerful.
present, it's like that is huge to
Yeah.
make sure that the people that you care about the most get the best of you, not what's left of you from all that you've just put in at work or all the distractions or your phone or your social media likes. Like those things in the greater scheme of things don't matter the most. And so it's just getting people to realize you got to be present, you got to be focused. And
But you said something important there. I mean, you're getting them to think about other people too. The impact, not just of losing the weight for me, but being there as a father or a husband or a friend. I have a concept called activate the power of who, which means that when you attach your who's, your wife or your daughter or your son or your family member, whoever, everybody has a who that means something to them. And if you can attach that who to a goal, you become unstoppable. And that's what I'm hearing is you're not just transforming them for them, you're transforming them for the who's around them.
100%. And I think this such an important thing is recognizing that and identifying it daily, right? Without that focus, like you're saying on the who, we know that if someone writes down their goal on paper, they're about 30 to 40% more likely to achieve it. Now, if you write it down and you share it with the people you care about it, you're almost 80% more likely to achieve that goal. 78%, I think, is the exact stat. So 78% more likely to achieve what you really, really want if you write it down and you share it with the people, the who that you're just talking about.
That's right.
That you care about. That's huge because it's an accountability. You're not fighting alone anymore. It's a team and it's an effort with a why and a who behind it.
And that accountability is so important for achieving greatness in our lives. I started to write my goals down and share them when I was in boot camp. My goal was to get out of boot camp. And the date was November 13th, 1987. And I wrote that date on every piece of paper I had. So I saw it every day. But I also wrote letters home to friends and family. And I said, I will, not I might, but I will graduate on this date. And I sent them. And all of a sudden, within a few days, maybe a week later, I started to get letters back saying, great, we're going to be there for your graduation. And what I did by announcing the goal and the date and sharing it is I started to put my own feet to the fire. And it made everything I was doing so much more critical because now other people were asking me how it's going. You don't want to send a letter home to your mom saying, well, actually, I'm not going to graduate, So that accountability is huge. As a coach, I encourage people to share their goals with others and they become more coachable. Now, I had a question for you. You and I have a lot of parallels in life. Not only do we have great haircuts, I mean, for starters, that's out there, but husbands, fathers, we've done coaching in very different arenas, but also very similar arenas. Your pathway to greatness, I can relate to it from the standpoint that I was not the best student in high school. In fact, in junior high, middle school, I was kicked out of school. I was, I don't like to say kicked out. I was asked by the district to relocate, as I like to phrase it. You had a very similar experience. Can you talk a little bit about that starting point And then that transition to achieve greatness in your life.
Right. We do. That was a fun reflection, because it's, those moments of, oftentimes we think about those moments that almost break us, right? Like,
Yeah.
think about that, and those moments actually end up making us, right? Like that's the turning point.
Yeah.
And basically, for me, middle school time was a time of transition, right? And your friend circle changes, and I was headed down a bad path, and
Yeah.
for lack of a better way, I was headed down a bad path. And around seventh grade, I my friends and I, we started drinking, started using some recreational drugs, and
Sure.
it was early, right? Like, you're seventh grader, like, that's crazy, like, to do
Yeah.
that early. And I remember sitting in the lunchroom in eighth grade after struggling in school, suspensions, like, every time. The only time that I would actually get on point was like right when a sports season would start. Like, I'd focus. I like can't miss my football season. Can't miss my wrestling season.
Right.
But we're in the middle of like winter, and one of my friends that is in my circle, he's like, all right, I brought some whiskey to school. So we went to. He's like, let's go. And I had that moment. Was like, well, I don't know if I should do that. And I was like, oh, come on, I got to do it. I got to be cool.
Yeah.
And we took turns drinking in the bathroom, and we got caught, and I got expelled from school. And it was such like a point in my life where it was like, all right, this is when you've gone a little bit far. And you think about those moments, you think about who you let down, and the doubters that you get along the way. And the people are like, oh, you're just going to end up like so-and-so, or you're just going to end up like this. You're never going to get out of here. You're just going to keep going down this path, and where it's going to lead you. And to some extent, maybe that was like a challenge. And as a competitive person in my life, I was like, all right, I appreciate that doubt. Now I'm going to show you how I can. And so that path led, I'd love to say like I snapped my fingers and it turned around right away. No, I stayed, I ebbed and flowed with like, I'll focus. And then I'll focus on the things that I shouldn't. I'll focus and there was a turning point in my life, right around my sophomore year. I was trying to be on the right path. I really was, and I messed up again. And the coach that spoke into me during that time made all the difference. He had called me when I got expelled from school back in eighth grade. He saw that potential in me, and it's such an important aspect to have those people that speak belief into your life. And so I was down that wrong path. I messed up, and I don't know why I did it, but I was in the athletic director's office. He's like, you're going to be suspended. You're suspended from your season. And I was like, does my coach know yet? Like, this is the person that's believed the whole time.
Yep.
And he's like, he doesn't know yet. And I was like, I need to tell him. And I don't know why. I don't even know what was I thinking that I wanted to go tell him. The look on his face is one that I will never forget, when I had to kind of face that music. And I had to go myself in that mix. And I love that you just talked about I will. And that same coach, a year later, we wrote down goals before the season. I wrote, I want to be a state champion. I want to earn an athletic scholarship to college. I want to do this and this. And he's like, it's those are really good goals. He's like, what could you change to make those better? And I looked at the paper, and I was like, what are you talking about? And I changed every want to will. And then I went from wanting and wishing to willing and working. And that changed everything. And not only did I do it, I did it like times 10. And that focus from that point, as a 17-year-old, 16, 17-year-old kid, changed everything of I will, if I set my mind to it. So I love that you said that I will.
There's such power in every word we say.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think most people think about the words they say, and those words lead them into certain directions. That wanting or willing, here's what I'm going to do. That conviction level is so critical right now. And more people need that. I love that. You can sit there and want something or wish for something, or you can say, I will have it and I'll work for it. One thing that I've noticed, having spoken to you before, and as we're talking right now, mindset is important to you. It's that you feel that mindset helps get you in that right direction. Can you talk a little bit about, two types of mindsets. How you came out of that time period in your life when things weren't heading in the right direction. You had a shift in mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Before you can have a shift in actions, I believe you have to have a shift in mindset, at
Absolutely.
least if you want them to be permanent. And then we'll talk about mindset today during this pandemic and what that's been like. But the first mindset is, how did you have that shift, or what was that shift for you? And how did you stay locked in with a mindset that allowed you to stay on this new path?
I mean, it's first off, you have to make sure that you have some right people in your circle, right?
Yeah,
I think oftentimes, I think most people have heard like you are the average of your five closest friends or your five closest circle.
hmm,
And if you're always putting individuals in that circle that are pessimists and gossipers and doubters and
yep,
everything, what you focus on expands. And so for me, I wanted to level up, and I realized that I needed to level up by making sure my circle included people that were doing what I wanted to achieve, were on a path that I wanted to go, that that even what I put in my mind of like what you focus on, whether what you're reading or whether you're consuming, that expands. So whatever we focus on our mind, that expands. And I
that's right.
realized, and I was blessed to realize that early, and it aligned me on a path that I just, any goal that was in front of me, like I wasn't gonna just like say I'll try. Like, no, I'm not gonna try. Like, I'm going to put my whole self into this and put in the work. And one thing that I believe is like our best progress is on the other side of our comfort zone. So I'm gonna
That's
not
right.
only push it, I'm gonna push that threshold and see what's possible. But along the way, that's where you really achieve those great things, those and people look at like the accolades and like what a state champion or an all-American or all of those things, and those things are amazing, right? But that happens because of people that you put into your life. So that's not achieved on my own. That's achieved with putting the right people in place, surrounding yourself,
That's right.
and making sure that you have the people that are going to help you and guide you. Like, I think the saying goes, like, achievement without gratitude is the ultimate failure, right? Like,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
can't be on the top of the mountain
that's
and
right.
say, this is me, I did all of this. Guess where that's gonna be? An empty, lonely feeling. No, you get to the top of the mountain and you say, it's because of you and you and you, and you acknowledge those people that helped you get there. And that's when you really feel like it's you, any acknowledgement you give back to the people that help get you there. And
It's I'm going to use a little boxing analogy too, and I know you're okay with that if we talk boxing. But what I'm hearing is we've got to pick the people who are going to be in our corner, right? The people who are going to be there to support us, because we have to have the mindset to get in the ring. I mean, and right now with the pandemic and we're transitioning out of it, it feels like a fight every day. And so we have to have the right mindset. But I love that you added, we also have to surround ourselves with the right people, because those people can affect our mindset all the time. And you were in a bad spot at one point as a youth. You started to shift the people, the mindset, and you became a team captain, state champion, honor roll. You did all these great things, but you had to get the mindset and the people around you. What I'm most impressed with is the role of that coach with so many kids in his life. For him to know when to call you was critical. I
huge.
mean, it would be very easy for him to say, well, I hope Tate's going to be okay. But he actually did the action and checked in on you.
And I think that's a
That's
great,
so rare.
right. And we all have those thoughts of, hey, I wonder how someone's doing. Like, or I
Yeah.
want, I have that connection and I haven't talked to them in a while, or even like one of your friends that you has been a close friend, but maybe you've lost touch with, and you're just like, I think, like, use that moment as action. I think that's the biggest thing, is like people just stay in those comfort zones and they're like, well, I'm sure they're fine. And it's like, that's one thing that I've shifted. If I think of somebody, or if I have a feeling for somebody, like, or if I feel like someone maybe just, hey, like needs even a prayer in their life,
Yeah.
like, I just reach out. And the change that does, not only in my heart, but like, just like,
That's
oh my
right.
gosh, like someone else is thinking of me right now, especially after a year of COVID where there's isolation and separation, that makes us weak. Isolation, separation, that makes us weak. We are strong in community. We're strong in
That's
in
right.
togetherness. And I know that people have heard that before, but it's true. Like you got to have a community, and that's going to lift you up. That's going to make you stronger. And so I think that's such an important aspect, coming out of this COVID time as well.
Well, when you think about this, I talk about the impact of social distancing and how it relates in business, but it also relates in everyday life. But we are social creatures. We're strongest when we're together, and we've been told to stay apart. And worse than that, stay home and stay in your comfort zone. This last 13 months, people have been paid to stay in their comfort zone.
Mhm.
Regardless of, is it safer? Is this the right thing to do? Where we were is in the comfort zone. I heard so many people saying, you know what I binge watched while I was eating cupcakes? I mean, and then on top of it, which I always think is a great fight against, anything that adversely affects our health. In the fight against that is fitness, and gyms were closed.
Mhm.
So touch down quickly on, well, tell us a little bit about your club, because you run, you have a boxing club, and a lot of people may not be familiar with why that is so good for your health. So can you tell us a little bit about your club? And then I want to talk about the effects of the pandemic on your club and your clientele. What was that like for that 4 or 5 months you had to shut down? But let's hear a little bit about your club and what you do for clients.
Sure. So people hear Title Boxing Club and they may immediately think, or I would say the majority of people think, oh, you're going to go in there, you're going to spar, you're going to fight, you're going to do all those things. And that's not our focus at Title Boxing Club. Our focus is to speak, first off, belief into realizing that every person that walks into our doors has a fight. What is that fight? What that fight could be: anxiety, depression, weight, cancer, diabetes, heart
Sure.
disease, Parkinson's, you name that fight. We all have a fight. And our job is to have you as you are. We take you in as you are, and we guide you to overcome on 100-pound heavy bag. So you come into our club and your family. It's a culture. It's
Awesome.
literally every one of the 700 members in my club. I could greet them by name. They walk in and it's not, hey, how you doing? It's, hey, Eric, how's your day going? Like, how was that
Yeah.
trip that you just took for spring break? Like, that's the culture. Like, a lot of people say that, but that's who we are. Like, that's how our
Yeah.
club has grown. And so you walk into our doors and we know, hey, whatever you're battling that day, that week, that stress, whatever it is, we're going to leave knowing that not only can you beat it, you will beat it. And so we take an everyday person that, our most common client, our most common member is women that want to knock out stress, tone up, lose weight. That's our most common
Knockout
client.
stress. I love that.
70.
Knockout stress. Woo.
And
Powerful.
yes, and make you and leave feeling empowered. And so you come in and we're going to take you through, and we have both men and women. It's not just women, but most people are surprised that, like, oh, you have more women here than men. It's like, yeah, women like to punch stuff too. It's great. So you come in and we warm up your body with the total body warm up, and we simulate a fight on a bag, a 4-round, an 8-round, or a 12-round fight on a 100-pound heavy bag with the trainer that's leading you through, guiding you, helping you with your form and your technique, and you let it all out right on that bag. You leave, and then right when you think you're done, then we get you down on the ground. We're going to work your core, your foundation, stretch you out at the end, and just make it an all-encompassing total body workout. So it's more than a gym. It's a club. It's a family. It's a culture. And
Well, and you're transforming people,
right, yeah,
and
like literally one punch at a time, one round at a time, one day at a time. And it's just a fun atmosphere to be a part of. It's like one of those things. All of us have an athlete in us. Maybe you listen, and you're like, I'm not an athlete. You're an athlete, all right? We all have an athlete in us, and it's like you bring out that drive and that edge, and you realize that it's you versus the bag, and that
that's
bag
right.
can be, name any one of those things, and there's nothing more therapeutic than punching something as far as relieving that stress, as far as
That
knocking.
bag could be the pandemic.
Absolutely. It can be anyone or anything you need it to be. And so that's a little bit about our club and how we've grown. And yeah, it's super great blessing to be a part of something that fight back in a different way. Like
I mean, every day you're impacting people. Every day you're making people stronger, not even just physically, but with their mindset, their
Absolutely.
focus. So when did you actually start the club? How long have you been in business?
So in June here, we'll be on our 7-year anniversary.
Okay.
So yeah, and you asked the question before. It's like, how was this last year? It was a challenging year in the
Yeah,
health world. To be, the one thing that fights disease, one thing that strengthens your immune system, without question. There's not even a debate on it. It's exercise, right? And
that's right.
so you're told that no, you can't be open. You can't do that. And I think about the mental health of this last year of that impact. But we were very blessed to be very proactive. So as soon as we got word, I was like, it took me about an hour, and I was like, let's get a game plan together. And we went from from a in-person health club to a virtual health club within minutes of, Zoom classes every day, live
Sure.
Facebook classes every day. And then when we were able to have a little bit of restrictions lifted here in Minnesota, and I know every state was a little different, we were outdoor workouts,
Sure.
park workouts together, socially distanced in space. And we're just like, we're not going to just wait this one out. We're going to take action. And I think that's a lot of times when people face adversity, it's like, adversity introduces you to you, right? Like, how are you going to respond? Like, I've been speaking life and belief into you for 7 years. Am I going to let you down right now? Am I going to stand in the sidelines and wait? Or am I going to practice what I preach? Am I going to be in your corner, whether that be a mindset coaching session, whether that be a Facebook Live, whether that be a live Zoom workout, whether I'm going to meet you in the park? I mean, we're not going to desert you right now.
Well, you can't sit there and preach it just during the good times. When we're needed the most as a coach or a leader or a friend or whatever, we're needed during the tough times.
Absolutely.
And ironically, you hit down on something that I've been talking about for a long time, since the pandemic broke out 13 months ago, is during any challenge, during any obstacle, you find out who's who every time.
You do.
How is it for you? You care so much about your clients, their health, their wellness, their mindset. You have 700 people coming in and out of the club. And then when they told you the club had to close down, your thoughts had to go to those people. I mean, that would be horrific, hearing that news. What was your mindset like just within the first few moments of hearing that? I mean, there had to be some almost like a hopelessness or something unimaginable. Nobody would have thought we would have shut down. And here you are helping people every day. And just like we're coaching people around the world. And then there was that, we have to shut everything down. And it took a while for that to settle in. But you have people coming into your club and now those doors closed. What thoughts went through your mind initially?
When you work on mindset every day, right? When you work on yourself,
Yes.
and that's something that I'm not here saying I know it all. I'm here saying I work on me every day. And I'm not saying like that in a selfish way. Like, I'm saying that I'm working on my mind and my body every single day so that I can pour more into you, not pour more into me. I'm doing that so I can pour more into you. So
right.
Being blessed to have that mentality and that mindset, it took me about 5 to 10 seconds to say, all right, at first it was like, okay, that's a weight. I felt that weight for a second.
Yeah.
And then there was that immediately like fight. Like, all right, here is, we got, I don't know exactly how it's going to look right now, but it's going to look like something, and it's not the time to it's not the time to do nothing. It's the time to dig deep. And I'll just use an example of, we have a huge Parkinson's community that comes in, and people think boxing and Parkinson's, and they're like, what is, Muhammad Ali, they think Muhammad Ali had Parkinson's. They can envision Muhammad Ali with the tremors and his hand shaking.
Yeah.
And Muhammad Ali did have Parkinson's, but boxing is one of the best things for individuals battling to Parkinson's, not because we're not boxing getting punched in the head,
right.
100-pound heavy bag. And so Parkinson's tries to take everything away. It adds rigidity. It's, it takes away dopamine, and your body gets stiff and tight. And boxing is the exact opposite. It's big, it's loud, it's powerful. And it's key to to battle Parkinson's disease, you have to exercise and you have to push your intensity level to get dopamine firing throughout your body so that you can slow or stop the progression of the disease. And I thought about those people, right? Like that was like right in my heart. I was like, these people need this. Like they're first off, they're at the most risk of COVID, right? Like 60 plus, 70 plus. I have 85-year-old Parkinson's, almost 92 is my oldest Parkinson's member.
Wow.
And I went to my club, 3 to 4 days a week. And so I thought about those individuals. I was like, how are we going to fight back? And although technology may not always be the best thing for that age demographic, we found a way to make Zooms work for each of those individuals. And then if they didn't know how to use Zoom, it was me recording it and sending them a YouTube link that they would do during that time. And that was just like that time was like, we're gonna find a way. I shouldn't even say that. We're gonna make a way. Because
we will make a way.
I'll find a way. No, we will make a way. Sometimes we have to make a new way. And we made a new way to make sure we were able to reach every member.
Yeah. You know what? I love that you said, and as a coach, it's often, do we believe in what we're teaching people? And a challenge allows us to exemplify what we've been teaching. In other words, you've been telling people, we're all in a fight, so they can come to your gym and learn how to take on that fight. And then you had a fight called the pandemic. You had a fight called being shut down. Ironic that fast food restaurants and liquor stores were open, but health and fitness clubs were closed. Now, maybe that's a topic for another discussion, but I'm just saying, like, get your chicken McNuggets, grab your beers, go sit on the couch, and we'll pay you, but don't go into the gym. You had a fight, and because you work on your mindset, not just the punching bag, you work on your mindset and the bag, you were able to shift your mindset to get back in the zone that you are now facing a fight, and you started punching. But I have to ask you, when you're used to doing things, like for me, I'm a speaker, so I'm working on a big stage. There's hundreds of people in the crowd, and all of a sudden you go to this little box here that we're in today, and it shifts the dynamic. So you have to learn how to improvise, adapt, overcome, three of my favorite words. But when you're doing a boxing course or a session virtual, what is that like? I mean, do they have to have the equipment? How did you get into their mindset when you're not there in person with them? How did you help them virtually?
Yeah, I mean, so we're going to meet, again, someone where they're at. So some of them may have had a bag at home or hung something up and found a way to make it work. And others just use your living room. You got space. And I think that's the time where, you have to coach better. And so it makes you level up, because there's an aspect to that where now you can see everybody at the same time. So you can see if somebody stops, you can see if somebody is like slows down, and we knew their name anyway, but you could just say right on the screen, like, oh, come on, Nancy, I see you right there. Come on, keep moving. Like, come on, whoever, come on, Eric, like, don't slow down right now. This is the last 30 seconds. It's time to step it up. Yeah. And it's continuing to speak that belief, and then reminding them, at the end, it's like, we love you, we miss you, we're in this fight. And it's just like that message of, we're going to get through this. We will get through this. And it was not an easy year. And I still have 100 members on hold that haven't been ready to come back, but they're able to come online. They're able to, hop on our YouTube channel. They're able to, read our newsletter. They're able to still stay connected and still stay in community. And whether they're ready in a week, or whether they're ready in a month, or whether they're ready in a year, we will meet them where they're at, and we'll continue to speak that truth and that belief into them, and knowing that we'll get through it.
Now, you did something for your clients that some people wait. They'll wait to see what happens, but you took immediate action. And I think that was so important, because when people are coming in, you're helping them to minimize stress. And right now, there's not a single person who hasn't been affected by the pandemic, a single person who hasn't had an increased stress level over the last 13 months. And so right now, what I'm hearing is this may be the best time to call you and say, hey, I need to come in. I'm excited to come in for my session, which I got to get scheduled and I got to get in there.
We're gonna make
But
it happen.
I'm ready for it. And stress, I mean, that is a silent killer for people. It really is. It does so much damage to our bodies. And so, whereas you're helping with the mindset, we got to think the right thoughts. We got to be in that frame of mind. The ability to minimize stress in a 13-month period that has been stress maximized is huge. Have you noticed a different level of stress in your clients? You got people coming in for 7 years, then all of a sudden this last year, whether it's virtual or in person, are you able to pick up on that they have so much more on their minds now than ever before?
Absolutely. But it does give you an opportunity to create unity, because like you just said, is not a single person has been untouched by this.
That's
Not a
right.
single person hasn't been impacted in this last year in some way, shape, or form. So, kind of the fastest way to get to somebody is connection, right? Like we all seek connection, and
Right.
it's like people can get to their inside people's head, and we're talking a lot about mindset and head, but it's like when I can get to your heart,
Yeah.
like right to your heart, that's when I know that we have something, right? Like it's connecting those two, like when we get your head and your heart, now we're talking like
That's right.
how far do you want to, it's no longer like like how far can you go, it's like how far can you grow, like we're going to just keep going, keep going,
Yeah.
keep going. And so
I mean, that's powerful because you're tying in so much. You get the mindset, you get their feelings from their heart. I think that bag, that 100-pound bag, is filled with so much stress this year from people.
absolutely.
There's such a need for people to visit your club. There's such a need for people. Well, and here's the great part, even virtually, now you can reach people all over the world.
Absolutely. Anywhere. Like we have people that hop on from they're snowbirds and they're in Arizona. Like, hey, all right, I'll see you in a month, but you better keep showing up, because you know that when you come back in a month, it's going to hurt a little bit more if you don't do something along
That's
the way.
right. But I can imagine there's some people that are just waiting, right? They're just waiting for a better time. One thing I know about you is you're a big fan of not waiting, taking action. Now, I got to admit, your mind shift from the 5 to 10 seconds to get yourself in alignment with how you need to think was pretty fast. Most people don't operate that fast, but then again, most people aren't. They're also not training their mindset, right? There's a process where when we hear bad news, and everybody's heard it in this last 13 months in some capacity, right? Either you're laid off, your club is shutting down, your kid can't go to school. We're all hearing it, and everybody makes that mindset shift at a different rate. And so, for me, talk about teamwork right now. I think when you're part of a team, if you feel alone, it's probably harder to have that mindset where it needs to be. But the interesting part about what you're teaching is, here's boxing. It's a very one-on-one type of experience, right? It's very personal. And yet you're saying, I know one of your favorite sayings is, there's no progress made in your comfort zone, right?
Right.
So you got to get out of your comfort zone. But the best way to do that is to surround yourself with the right people, because it's hard to step out of a comfort zone and not know where you're going. But if you're going to where people are expecting you, there's so much power in that. So here's a sport that's typically identified as an individual sport,
Right.
but not in your mind, it's a team sport. Can you just touch down a little bit more on the importance of teamwork in a sport that's associated with individualism?
Absolutely. And right before that, you had asked not waiting. And so
Yes.
right before we get to this, it's like, if you wait for the perfect time, like everyone's listening, like, oh, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait till the perfect time.
Yeah.
Pretty soon that perfect time turns into, that's going to be Monday. And pretty soon that perfect time is going to be like, nope, it's going to be May 1st. And pretty soon that perfect time is going to be, nope, it's going to be right after the holidays. And then, no, it's going to be January 1st. January 1st is when everything changes. And if you're listening right now and you've been waiting for that perfect time, you're going to wait forever. It's like the time is now. It's taking action now.
Absolutely.
And so to get back to your question, you're coming in to the doors. And if you really want a change, you have to surround yourself with people that are also looking for change. And so when you know that there's like you just said, like, I don't believe that there's progress made in our comfort zones when, like sometimes it's like for a person that's never tried boxing before, they're like, that sounds intimidating. Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But I do want to knock out stress. Would it feel good to punch something? All right. All right. You get in the door, like that nerves
that's
can turn
right.
into excitement, right? Like those two emotions are tied together, right? Like that's not nervousness, that's excitement. You're excited about it. Like tell yourself that. And then it starts to shift your mind. But when you experience something like what I love about our club is you look to your left and there's the 50-year-old mom, and you look to your right and there's the 12-year-old middle school boy, or fifth grade or whatever it is,
Yeah,
that kind of trying to find his confidence. And then you look in front of you and there's a 70-year-old that's maybe battling Parkinson's, or maybe just fighting back.
yeah,
And you look next to you and you see your spouse, or whoever, like your friend, and there is a bond there. There's a bond in something like, oh my gosh, we're not a part of, like, together we achieve more, right? Like team
that's right.
together, like that's that team component. That's that we're all on that boat. And there's another saying that goes like, you want to go fast, like you can go alone, right? You can go fast, you can go alone, but I don't know how far that's going to lead you. If you want to go far, like not just like this week, not just this
Yep,
month, this year and years to come, you got to go together. And we talked about that. Like, we are stronger in community. We are stronger
that's
together.
right.
And I hope that someone hears that and just realizes, like, no, if I really want to change, I got to surround myself. I have to be a part of a team. I have to be part of a community that's going to speak that life and that
That's
belief,
right.
understand the same struggles that I go through, that you're never fighting alone. You're never fighting alone.
See, and I love what you're saying, because you also mentioned earlier, unity, unification, bringing people together. Most people want to be part of something special. They want to be part of something great. When we think boxing, we may think it's very individual, but then again, if you have an average gym membership, it's an individual. There's a lot of people there, but you feel alone.
Right.
Now maybe you do a class, but in the grand scheme of things, I see people go in and out of classes and there's not that camaraderie. You're building camaraderie in this so that people want to have that connection. I think that's so needed right now. Not only do we need to get out of our comfort zones, but we need to get back into how to socialize and how to have a shared experience. And I love that your club has age ranges in there, male, female. You got everybody in there punching that bag. The bag means something different to them. But that unification process is something that we're lacking right now. We've been separated from each other, or remote or virtual or distanced, for 13 months. And when we put it into the big picture, that's longer than some military deployments.
Right. And you mentioned separation, and not only we're separated from that side of things, like if depending on what someone's intaking in their mind, like the news is trying to separate us even further, right?
There's a
Like
lot of division out there.
100%.
So I want to touch down on something. You've kind of sprinkled it in a little bit today, but truth. How important is that word for you right now?
Yeah.
Because you are a believer in sharing truth.
I am.
And it's one of the ways you help to empower people. You ask questions, but you are able to deliver truth to them. And people are seeking you out right now. You're a coach, you're helping transform them, but there's a lot of takes on that word right now.
There is. And I think not everyone wants to hear this, but in your life, you have an opportunity to choose your relationships. And we talked about that already. Yep. But if you don't have somebody that tells you what you need to hear, and you are just surrounded by people that tell you what you want to hear, it's not going to lead you anywhere. And it's a hard truth, but it's a truth that we need to identify. And it's a truth that we have to realize, is that if I truly believe, like I really truly believe this, like we're either on a path to growing or we're on a path to death. Yep. And you're either on a path, on that growth path, there's going to be a lot of fulfillment. Then there's going to be a lot of challenges along the way. And on that other path, that death path, there's going to be a lot of regret. And I think anyone listening right now, you are going to either be in your retirement age, or even like day to day, like you're either going to be filled with what's in, like all that you've had and that gratitude and what's in front of you and still so much to do, or you're going to just be weighted down by regrets.
That's right.
And there's a reason in when you're driving that your windshield is 80 times bigger than your rear view mirror. Now there's lessons in your rear view mirror. There's reflection in your rear view mirror. You can learn from your rear view mirror, but you need to be focused on what's in front of you and have awareness.
Powerful. That's powerful right there.
You can crash. And so when I'm talking about speaking truth, like having the awareness to understand, like we're moving forward. And that's what I would just encourage somebody is like that truth is in the future. And the rearview mirror is still important. It's good to know. It's good to have lessons in there. But where I'm leading people is on a path to be better, not better than somebody else. We have enough comparison. Like Teddy Roosevelt said, like comparison is the thief of joy. I want you to be better than one person. And that's the person you were yesterday. And I know people have heard that before, but that's your ultimate comparison. Are you going to show up and push harder than you did the day before? If you want a different tomorrow, you got to push harder than you did yesterday. And so
you had a coach that spoke the truth to you.
Right. It was huge.
Look at the impact all these years later. You know, you're emulating what he did for you just on a bigger scale with so many clients now, you know, not just in your own club, but outside of your club that can now participate. But to speak that truth to them, that's what we do as coaches. I've often told my clients, and yes, I've coached people physically, not to the extent that you have by any means, but I coach them in business or sales or whatever the case is. And I always tell them the same thing. Be careful of hiring me as your coach, because I'm going to say it like it is, and I'm going to hold you accountable to your goals. Your goals will become my goals. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm picking up on with you, is that when somebody brings you into their life as a coach, right, as you're helping them to transform. And I know you're not coaching all 700 at the same time, but you are a coach to them. When they bring you into their lives, they know they're going to get truth from you. But we need that if we're going to transform. I mean, truth leads to transformation, in my opinion. Absolutely. And if you're surrounded by people who just say what you want to hear, you're robbed of the truth, and you rob yourself of that transformation. And we all need that, especially right now.
Absolutely. And you're 100% right in that coaching aspect. When you're with somebody, it goes from a me focus to a we focus. Like if you really want to get after this, we can do it. But it's an accountability that you're not always going to want to hear.
That's correct.
Think about like one of my closest relationships right now. It's my friend Crystal, and she's been battling cancer. She beat cancer once, leukemia, after 28 rounds of chemotherapy. Wow. She had 3 months to live, and she beat it. And I know you have an amazing story. I've listened to you talk about your wife and her battles with beating cancer multiple times. And so we're on this second journey of beating cancer, from 3 months to live to living for 1 month cancer-free in remission, to 1 month later coming back. And that was just absolutely devastating to her.
Yeah.
And I looked at her in this second round, and I was like, if I'm in, you know what that means, right? Like, you know that if we're in this, like I'm gonna show up even on the days that you say no. And I don't care if we move an inch, we're moving an inch. Like, you just can't stay there. I'm not going to let you sit in your bed or on your couch and die. And so yesterday it was like, she was like, no, I'm done. I can't do anything. I'm not moving. And I was like, movement is medicine. And I literally lifted her up off the couch.
That's awesome.
And we walked for 30 minutes. And it was a slow walk. I mean, she's just been through another intense round of chemotherapy. The most intense chemo alive is what she's doing right now.
Sure.
And it's such a time. It's like, it's no longer just you. This is from we, and not everyone is ready for that, but I would challenge you that maybe it's the time for you to be ready for it, because after this last year, and you're here, you're listening to this podcast with Erik. I mean, great knowledge, great insight, greatness, right? You want to be greater. So maybe now is the time to make sure that you're having somebody in your corner, like that boxing corner man or corner woman in your life, that's going to guide you to that next level. Every champion was a contender that refused to give up. Like, right. We can go to Muhammad Ali, right? Like, like the greatest of all time. And it's, he said that before he knew he was, right? Like, that's his quote. Like, I said I was the greatest before I knew I was. He just like, cause he was willing his way there.
That's right.
And you're listening and you're like, I want to be great, but I don't know if I want to put in the work. Well, too bad. It's going to take work. Nothing with happening comes easy. And
That's correct.
so here we are.
Well, we've all faced challenges in those last 13 months. It hasn't been an easy journey for everybody, or anyone for that matter. You know, we're going into a transition phase where we're moving out of the obstacle, which is the pandemic, and into a transition phase. But most people don't acknowledge the stress that comes with transitions. I feel this is going to be the most stressful of the three phases. So I always say there's the obstacle, the pandemic,
Mhm.
there's the transition to the great new era. So at some point we'll be in this new era, and here's how we operate, right? A blended form of training, in person and virtual, or coaching, or whatever. Here's how we do things. Or Target delivers to your door every week, whatever the case is.
Mhm.
Sometimes we ignore this transition phase. And I hear people, especially in business, right? They'll say, well, I'm excited for the pandemic to be over so we can just get back to this new norm, which will never exist. But they're cutting out the transition phase. I feel transitions can be the most stressful time during chaos. And this might be the time when they need to reach out and punch that bag even more. This transition, because there's less rules and regulations during a transition. There's a lot of variables that are unknowns. I mean, look at it. Even you mentioned earlier, every state is opening differently. Every business is opening differently. Every household is conducting itself differently. So there's less and less norms during the transition phase. And I would say this would be when the stress levels rise the highest. So we need to have that bag that says transition phase on it and have people be able to hit that. But in the military, when people come home from combat or deployment and they've served their country, they did their job, they did what they took an oath for. For service members, sometimes the transition to the new life is the hardest. And
Absolutely.
they're highly trained and highly disciplined. We went remote without any training, without any coaching for most of us. And now we're just going to put people back together. I would think that every single person listening right now needs to be able to direct that fight, direct that stress in the right area and knock it out.
100%. And I think what makes that transition so hard is because we've adapted to, the last 13 months, like you mentioned.
That's right.
We found what our comfort zone was, and we know, and then we don't know what's ahead. But this transition phase is tough because it's the uncertainty, right?
That's
like
correct.
Where people don't know what to do with the uncertainty. And you mentioned the military. Like I have brothers that have come back from overseas multiple times, and that's the hardest transition because you have purpose and you have community and you have brothers with you every day. You have trust. Yep. You have that built-in trust. You have to trust the guy next to you because your life is on the line.
That's right.
And when you come back, it's hard to find that community and trust because it's been gone. And so you throw back into the civilian life and you don't have that. And it makes it difficult. And that's why you see the mental health and
that's right.
And the suicide rates with that demographic specifically go so high. And so that's all the more important time to find something that will make you feel like you're a part of that community, feel that you have a release. We all need a release of that negative energy, that negative stress, that negative emotion. We have to let that out. If we hold that in, we explode. And so we have to let it out. And so whether that's boxing or whatever your go-to is, it has to be something.
Well, and staying in motion, right? And when veterans come back, when service members come back, or they transition out, there's a focus on keeping them active so that they don't go back into that comfort zone, right? They don't get into a comfort zone and let their mindset shift to a bad place. We have to keep them in action. We have a focus on veterans because we've seen eras like the Vietnam era where we brought them back and we didn't help them transition, and the suicide rate was so high. And now the suicide rate for Vietnam vets is higher than the actual death toll of our soldiers in Vietnam, which is crazy. But we're coming out of this phase right now where the signs of PTSD, which isn't limited to the military, it's just stress disorder, right? So anybody could get it. Right now, anybody listening has to be aware that the vaccine, the end of the pandemic, whatever we want to look at it as, could signal the beginning signs of PTSD in the entire nation. And we need a release for that. As I'm sitting here, I'm making notes on what I'm going to write on my bag so I can punch that bag. I really do think that we have more stress, more uncertainty, more variables, more things that we need to punch right now. I'm going to encourage everybody listening to write a list out of what you want to punch.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to reach out, you got to connect with Tate so you can punch that bag and release that stress, because stress is a silent killer. It does so much damage to us.
Mm-hmm.
And it can go unnoticed too. You know, one of the things that I love about you is you help people through their challenges, but your technique, your focal point is to help them stay composed, help them be proactive. I mean, that really has boxing written all over, right? If you lose your composure in boxing, let's say you're really boxing against somebody, if you're too reactive
Mm-hmm.
and you lose your composure, you could get knocked out.
100%.
Right now, during this transition phase is not the time to get knocked out. So how important is it for people to stay composed and be proactive right now in the world we live in?
I mean, it's huge. And you really did hit the nail on the head with the boxing analogy, because like the best fighters they're not angry. If you go out there and you just start wailing your arms and you get out of control, you will get caught and you will get knocked out. And right now it's like, right now is a great time to just make sure that you are focused on the right things, making sure that you are aligning your life and your path and your vision and your focus on the right thing by keeping your, like we talk about breathing, how important that is in boxing, but it's so important in life, right? Like keeping your breath, staying under control. Like when you're throwing punches in boxing, it sounds like shh, 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 shh. And the same thing happens like as you're going through any any challenge time, like you feel that stress, like if you don't get your breath right, everything goes out of disarray. Like you have to get your breath right and you got to get your focus. And it's just like breathing in some confidence in yourself, breathing in that belief, breathing in that truth, and then exhaling all that doubt, exhale that stress, exhale that fear, exhale that anxiety, exhale that depression. Like breathe in that confidence and make sure that your eyes are focused on the right thing. Your breath is focused on the right thing. And that's huge, because without that, you will, here's what happens when you hold your breath. You either get knocked out or you pass out. And we don't want either of those things to happen to you in life. And it's relatable. Like there's a lot of parallels to boxing and life. It's in, you get knocked down 7, you get up 8, and we all get knocked down. We've all been knocked down.
That's right.
And really, how do you get up and learn from it? And maybe I would even encourage one more thing. When you get knocked down,
keep encouraging. I love all your encouragement today. This is awesome.
Maybe when you get knocked down this next time, before you just get back up, just pause for like one quick second and maybe realize that maybe you need to wipe some stuff off the floor instead of slipping on that same thing that's knocked you down over and over. Like just take 1 second. Yep. You get knocked down, you get back up, you're knocked down. And you think that guy's a tough. But just like maybe just like one new thought. You get knocked down, just look around for a second. Am I slipping on the same thing over and over again? Do I need to just take a minute? Do I need to wipe something up? And
little self-awareness goes a long way. And self-awareness and being proactive.
Right.
I love that you can help people build their composure back up. It's so needed right now, because if you go into a grocery store, some people don't even know how to function anymore out in public. So many things have been paralyzed in us, just crippling us from normal behavior, that right now our composure is critical. And the Marines, they would teach us how to maintain our bearing, right? How we carry and conduct ourselves. That was their word for it. But the breathing side, these little nuances that you're talking about are so critical. We need to be aware of these things. When I was on the rifle range in the Marine Corps, they taught you how to breathe the correct way, how when you're exhaling to squeeze the trigger so you could hit the target. Because the motions of your breath, if you did hold your breath, then your muscles started to react and it could affect your shot. So it could affect your shot. In boxing, you can get knocked out. So don't hold your breath, unless you're jumping, I guess, unless you're a swimmer. But the reality is that there's certain things we have to learn how to control. We have to learn how to control our composure, being proactive. We have to learn how to punch that bag. I mean, for some people, they come in, you're just teaching them how to throw that punch. They may have never thrown a punch in their whole life. And yet they
Exactly.
have something to hit. And we all have something to hit right now more than ever.
Yes. Yes. An emphatic
But
yes.
but
And
you're not just, what I love about you, Tate, you're not just helping people in the ring, you're helping people in communities too. You do a lot on the fight against Parkinson's disease,
mhm,
but you also lead a men's group, a
right.
faith-based men's group and couples group. In order to achieve greatness in life, how important is it for you to give back?
I think it gives you like that clarity. Like if there's like a balance of how you want to, look at your life. It's like if you don't balance, like people may hear me talking like, well, he sounds confident, but on the other side, like I have to balance that with humility and like caring, and then like courageousness, like that sounds like courage, like you're talking about comfort zone, but then you balance that out with like caring for others and
That's
speaking
right.
into others. And my cup gets way more filled up from seeing someone have a breakthrough, from seeing them have a
Yeah.
like feel themselves again, like feel like they are worth it again, right? Like there's so many of us, like you just get beat up and beat up and beat up, beat up. You might get beat up by your boss or your kid, like your kids are just weighing on you, and your spouse and relationships, and like we talked about, that rear view mirror is flip-flop from what it should
That's
be.
right.
And I absolutely love finding somebody that maybe has lost some belief in themselves, and being able to speak that into them, and then they find themselves along that journey. They find themselves again, and then not only they find themselves, like such a key step there is then they help others. And when you can, like when you find yourself and then you can help somebody pull along with you, it just reinforces
It's
everything.
contagious.
It's
It's
it is
contagious.
100% contagious, and
Yeah.
it's the best when you can, like a great, like a boss pushes you, a leader pulls you. And so when we can pull people along, like sometimes you just need a little pull, and then
Yeah.
you like how many people, and I am a coach that like will push you, but I'm pulling you at the same time. And
Yeah. But it's funny. You mentioned the bosses. I got to imagine a lot of people coming in and punching that bag. They, well, maybe not, but I'm guessing there's some bosses' names on that bag,
oh,
right? Or at least their pictures. There has to be.
yeah, you see someone you just like with a scowl on their face, and all of a sudden they're
Right.
punching harder. I feel bad for that person on the other side, but
That's right.
it's that therapy side of things. It's more than a workout. This is therapy, and it's therapy for those battling Parkinson's, but it's therapy for everyday people fighting stress, anxiety, doubt,
Yeah.
fear, heart disease, diabetes. So you name your fight, whatever, we'll take you where you are and help you feel great again. And
I think
that's
we live in an era right now because of the pandemic and the upcoming transition. People's belief in themselves has dipped to all-time lows.
mhm.
And the need for a great coach like you, like your team, to help people believe in themselves again is huge.
It's
Let me just ask you this. If somebody's listening to this right now and they say, I want to strive for greatness in my life. I'm ready to get out of my comfort zone. I'm ready to be proactive. I'm ready for some truth. We were talking Jack Nicholson before. You can't handle the truth. And as a society, we may have a hard time, but do you have some key lessons that somebody listening right now can take to heart and say, you know what, I want to achieve greatness? What would you recommend to them?
First off is what does greatness look like to you? Like what is that question? Like if the question is like what would greatness be? And I would encourage you to unpeel the onion a little bit deeper,
Yeah.
and you talked about that who and that why,
Yeah.
and making sure that what you're tying to, like we talked about at the beginning, it's not 10 pounds. It's like it's not 20 pounds. It's how do you feel when you're
That's
your
right.
most confident self? So when you're putting that on paper, writing it on paper, that's such a key aspect. And then while you're writing it, do me a favor and make sure that you write 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for that happened in the last 24 hours, so that you're not missing the little things in your life with your spouse, with your kids, day to day. Not I don't always want like hey, I'm thankful for my job and I'm thankful for my house. And those things are great. And especially after this time, like I understand, but what are things that you're grateful for that happened in the last 24 hours? That's a huge thing.
That's
And so
powerful.
what does that greatness look like to you? You need to put that on paper, and make sure you attach that who and that why with it.
That's right.
And then, like we talked about, you got to share that. that needs to be spoken out. You can't just then tuck that away in your drawer that you never see again. That I want you to put it on your refrigerator. I want you to put it on your mirror. It's like that accountability mirror right in front of you each day. Like those are such an important aspects of things, so that you, like we talked about, instead of wanting and wishing, I have some hard truth news for you. You are not going to get what you wish for. You are not going to get what you wish for. You're going to get what you work for. And that's true. Right. It's true. And I know that people don't always want to hear that truth, but it's you got to stop wishing and wanting, and you got to start putting action into place. So what you put it on paper and you shared it with somebody. Now, what's your first step? What's your first step that takes you? And I love Atomic Habits, like James Clear talks about. No one rises to the level of their goals in life. They fall to the level of their environment. So what environment are you setting yourself up for that's going to make sure that you have long-term success? Yeah. So making sure that you dial into your surroundings, because that comfort zone, that couch, that phone, that vice, that drink, that food, that will win if you let it. You have to set up your environment for success. That's so right. Making sure that, and then we talked about it earlier, like making sure that you have somebody in that circle that's going to make you level up. Like it's time to
They need to put all those vices on that bag and knock it out.
I can only imagine the amount of things that would be hanging there right now. So.
You may need to get some more bags in your club. Yeah, well, here's what I'm gonna. What's that?
60 might not be enough.
Yeah. Well, especially in this year. So I'm going to challenge everyone listening right now to take Tate's advice. I want you to think about some things that you want to make greater in your life. I want you to think about some goals, and I want you to share them with somebody. And I want you to consider sharing them with Tate. You okay with people reaching out to you and sharing their goals with you?
I would love that.
So that's actually a great segue for me to ask, what's the best way for people to reach out to you if they want to start working for their fitness goals with you?
Absolutely. So I'm at Coach Tate Wheeler on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. Erik's going to attach a link tree to the show notes, and you can connect with me on any of those platforms. And or reach out to Title Boxing Club if you're in Minnesota and you're listening. Title Boxing Club in Lakeville. You can find us, and I would absolutely love to connect with you. And if you heard this and you're like, you know what, I need to try a boxing class. First class is on me. That's free. I would love to have you come in and just let it out on that bag. It's, that's on me 100%. Just, and if you do it once, you regardless if you loved it or not, you'll get a great sweat and you'll feel better. And so that's a great key in this time. So yes, 100% connect with me, reach out to me, send me a message. I would love to connect and just see your goals and encourage you along the way.
That is so awesome. Everybody needs to take a swing at that bag, especially after this last year, and they need to do it with you and your team. I'm coming in to do it with you and your team, so I can speak with authority on it, because I got a bunch of stuff I've already listed that needs to go on that bag, and I'm ready to knock it out, because I don't want to get knocked out in life. I know that you impacted a lot of people today. I know there's gears turning who are listening to this right now. So Tate, thanks so much for blessing us with your insights today. I think this was phenomenal. I told you earlier, I love podcasting because at the end of each episode, I'm ready to conquer the world. Not only am I ready to conquer the world right now, I'm ready to knock out some things on that bag. So thank you so much. You are a true gift, my friend, and appreciate having you on today.
Thank you so much, Erik. It was my pleasure.
Awesome. We'll talk soon.